Welcome to Conversations, the podcast by Space, inspired by sincere and open discussions with men and women from the media world. At Space, we believe that communication is, above all, a human matter. That's why we place relationships and connections at the heart of our approach. This same belief is what drives Conversations, giving a voice to those shaping the media landscape. Advertisers, agencies, sales houses, directors, planners, specialists, and experts, to share their stories, unique experiences, and insights. Through these conversations, we aim to highlight the richness of personal and professional journeys with memorable anecdotes and genuine human experiences. Because connecting with others, daring to explore new perspectives, and growing together is what fuels Space every day. Connect, dare, grow. Today we have a truly inspiring guest, Alexandra Illiashova, Head of Integrated Communication, Belgium and Netherlands at Danone. If you've ever wondered what it's like to shape the story of a global brand while staying true to your own passions, you're in for a treat. Alexandra is not just a marketing and media expert. She's someone who deeply understands the power of storytelling, connection, and purpose. With her Ukrainian roots, she brings a unique perspective shaped by resilience, adaptability, and a deep appreciation for culture. Her journey has taken her across different industries and markets, but through it all, she stayed curious, creative, and driven by impact. In this episode, we'll talk about the moments that shaped her career, the lessons she's learned along the way, and what truly excites her, both inside and outside of work. Welcome to the podcast, Alexandra. Lo scavo prossimo do podcastu.
Wow! Thank you, Kelly. That went straight to the heart.
That's the full extent of my Ukrainian. Sorry for the undoubtedly horrible accent, but I just wanted to make you feel very welcome to the podcast.
Truly, I'm very honored.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Our viewers and listeners have already noticed that, contrary to previous episodes, we're not talking French or Dutch, but we're doing this in English, because neither French nor Dutch are your native languages. It's Ukrainian. So maybe let's start there. How does one go from being a Ukrainian to being head of integrated communications for Belgium and the Netherlands? Can you take us a little bit through the journey that brought you here?
With pleasure. It all started with love. I did fall in love and I moved to Belgium. So that's where my life gets split in half, let's say. That happened in 2010, the move. The falling in love happened a bit earlier. So before I moved, I had an entrepreneur career back in Kiev. This is where I'm originally from.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it later in the podcast. Then after the move to Belgium, which is almost 15 years now, I finished my studies and I started working in multinationals. First one was automotive, then I moved into FMCG with Coca-Cola Belgium first, and now 5 years at Danone, and recently in a Danone Benelux organization.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very nice. Your career in Ukraine, was it also oriented towards media? It was more entrepreneurial, you said.
Yes, it was a lot about marketing, branding, being a business owner at the age of 20. Horrifying. I can also talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, it was very different to a corporate life that I embraced in the past 13 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I can assume there are big differences between corporate life in Belgium and in Ukraine. What is something that you had to learn about the Belgian way of doing business versus Ukrainian?
Kelly, there is a great book which is called The Culture Map. Mm-hmm. And when you look at that book, and actually it shows you different angles of, for example, hierarchy, communication, alignment, and how it spans across cultures. Therefore, Ukraine being in the eastern part of Europe, we have a certain culture of doing business, culture of interacting with people, which seems to be fairly different from the one in the Western Europe. So I had to adapt a lot. And actually, my adaptation started by entering American companies. So I learned how to work in an American way. Then I learned how to work in a French way, coming to Danone. But it's all a mix and a blend. And I think that's the beauty of it, because today teams are international. That brings a lot of richness.
Yeah.
So I was able also to understand how my teams, which is also an international unit, today it happened this way, can go through certain challenges, and they have to adapt hierarchy, communication, alignment, all these aspects. They're really different.
Mm-hmm. Can you give an example of how they differ from one
Yes.
another?
Let's say between the American company and French. Let's take that angle because it's closer to the hearts and maybe the day-to-day realities of our audience. When in an American company a decision is being taken, implementation starts, no questions asked. You go. Somewhat different in French company because there is a richness of opinions that comes together at all the stages of that journey. So all the way at the end, when you're about to reach a consensus with a group of your stakeholders, somebody says, what if? And yes, but. And we go back.
Okay.
So that's already one thing that even moving from one company to another in the span of my Belgian career, I had to adapt.
Yeah.
If I now think back to my Ukrainian days, definitely a lot of ownership when you're an entrepreneur because your decisions are your own, your failures are your own. You are there end to end. While, of course, in the corporate world, you have different stakeholder management systems. You have, as I mentioned, alignments to make. So that's where the nuances come in. You're no longer a one-man show. You are a driving force, or you become a driving force in a big organization, but you need to lead people behind you.
Yeah. And in Ukraine, you were more a solitary entrepreneur, or it was more a one-woman business?
Professionally speaking, my career started about 20 years ago when, together with two friends who became business partners, we won in a TV show. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
What kind of a TV show did you participate in?
Have you heard about Dragon's Den?
Yes.
Voilà.
Yes.
So we had a Ukrainian version of Dragon's Den. It was called Business Sharks. We're in front of 5 investors, not in live, but in recorded TV, also broadcasting. We would pitch ideas, and we won in one of the emissions with my friends/business partners back in the days. And it was a beautiful flower boutique idea, and we installed it. And it was in 2006. And then we unfortunately had to close it down in 2008 because of the world economic crisis. And it hit the economy pretty hard. And we were in the luxury segment. So that had to go. But very rich experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you have some interesting anecdotes you would like to share about that?
I've learned a lot, absolutely, because I was 20 and I had to build a team and I had to hire people twice my age. I had to coach people twice my age. We also had an investor that we reported to. And on top of that, the dynamic between the three of us was also not that easy because you move from friends to partners to subordinates. So all that was a very interesting mix of fast forward learning experience.
Yeah. And that at 20, that's very young. And so you had experience in the flower business, but was that something that you brought with you to Belgium?
Absolutely not.
No.
Nope.
You started over here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because after flowers, there were private jets.
That's a big leap.
Yes, I know.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you go from flowers to private jets?
Very versatile career, especially at the start of it. I'm telling you a little secret here, which obviously after the podcast won't be, but it's not on my CV, but I did manage a private jet of a very wealthy person. I cannot name names. And it was just by connections, by network. I was advised. There was a person looking for a trusted person, and I became that trusted person. So I learned how to manage flight operations.
Wow, so you were the one coordinating the pilot,
the
flight attendants?
Exactly. I never stepped foot in the plane, but I knew exactly what was the BNL, how much money we're making, losing, how to make ends meet. Sometimes an owner would call me and say, 6 a.m, I'm in Basel, the engine stopped, fix it.
Okay, let me just grab my tool case.
Yes,
and I'll be
on my way. So yes, there were flowers, there were planes. After that, I helped build a few companies from a business plan point of view, also spreading the entrepreneurship, let's say. And that was the moment I fell in love.
Okay.
And I moved to Belgium.
A Belgian person then.
Yes.
Okay. And did you end up in a big city, in Antwerp or in Brussels?
Absolutely not. I ended up in Ternat. My first 2 years in Belgium were, in Ternat. And that's where I also learned Flemish. Afterwards, I moved to Brussels and I learned French in Brussels. Yeah. But my vocabulary is not yet as deep as I would love it to be to have a fluent conversation. That's why thank you for speaking in English with
welcome. Me. You're very welcome. Then you come to 2008.
So I moved here in 2010.
2010. Yeah. You can already put flowers, private jets on your CV. What was the next step for you?
Next step was integration. Because for me, whatever I knew, learned, languages I spoke, diplomas I had back from Ukraine, they were very good from where I come from. But here, I'm a nobody. I know nothing, and that started by learning languages. That started by getting a local diploma, and only after I could enter the workforce. That was a very intentional choice.
Okay.
So I did my second master at the VUB, Master of Management, and afterwards my very first corporate step was in automotive, in Goodyear, to be specific.
Again, a very different change of path. So good.
I know you're discovering these things you haven't done before.
Very interesting. Did you stay there long at Goodyear?
Quite, 5 years. Okay. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And then you changed to another sector entirely again?
Exactly.
And where did you go from there?
To FMCG. And you know what? Fun fact, I was around 30 years old and I have been already told you're too old to change industry. I had so much rage.
Oh my God.
What? I just changed 5 times. Yeah. You are trying to tell me.
You're talking to the chameleon of Eastern and Western Europe combined.
So I stayed stubborn. I stayed persistent and I entered Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Again, a wonderful company. And that's where I wanted to be closer to the hearts, to the hands, to the minds of people in a B2C world. Because in the automotive, especially in the tire industry, you're still a B2B2C company. So you can only go as far in building brands, in establishing emotional connections, in influencing behaviors. There's always an intermediary that you cannot fully control. And I wanted to be really even more hands-on and even more fast. And FMCG is definitely fast.
Yeah, I can imagine. And what was your position there? Can you tell us about it?
I entered Coca-Cola in brand as a brand manager. And very soon after, I mean, we're talking 3 to 4 months, I moved into digital. And if I look back at it now, that was best move in my career because it really set me up in an industry that I'm passionate about, that I'm inspired from. So that was the magic switch. And after that, so it's been now more than 8 years ago, I've only stayed in all things digital, media, e-commerce, integrated brand communication. So just starting to buy one piece of media and entering into the other sides of it.
And then from there, you evolved to Danone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you're responsible for Belgium and the Netherlands. Do you see a difference there in handling things between those two countries?
Actually, when I entered Danone 5 years ago, almost on the date, 23rd, we were in the first week and the first day of COVID. So I come in the office.
Period to start.
Nice. Nobody. I get my laptop. I start having people calling me. I don't know who they are. What am I supposed to do with them? And I open my agenda and it's a back-to-back for a week. After 2 days of this, I said, no, people, let's change. I recorded a video that I started sending everybody as an intro because I felt I was going nuts. So that was my entry point in a Benelux role. Even if the teams were at that point in time separated, we had a Belgium office and a team and a Netherlands one. The bridge between the two were 2 functions, S&I, which is strategy and insights, and my role. And I had also a person reporting to me sitting in the Netherlands, so we could cover the strategy and the operations of all the media aspects. Very soon after, we're talking a year and a half, we became local first, meaning 2 countries went further away from each other. Then I kept only the Belgian part of the geography, but expanded into content and e-commerce. I grew the team. And 9 months ago, so mid last year, we actually became Benelux. And this is where everything was brought together. Yeah.
But over the course of that change, you also evolved from a more digital profile, like you had at Coca-Cola, at a more integrated, holistic media
exactly.
media approach. Don't know where I'm going
difference,
with that, but that's fine.
They're very different, I can tell you.
Imagine.
Even the two countries that sit so close to each other, coming back to your question, of course, and back to the example I gave before on the culture map, if you look at it, the ways of working, the appreciation of a leader, for example, is different. In a Dutch culture, you cannot just do a top-down. It doesn't land.
Yeah.
People will just not do what you ask them to do. You always have to take them along. And as you probably know, it's one of the things that is very known between the two. The Dutch population can be quite bold and straightforward, and the Belgians not so much. Here, the richness from my background, being from Eastern Europe, also plays a role. Because I can be bold, no questions asked. If you're straight with me, I'll be straight back. Yeah. So then I could easily find my way with the Dutch colleagues and learn the subtlety of the Belgians when it's a little bit more nuanced, it's a bit more consensus-y. So it's still a journey.
Keeping in mind that it's also a French country, maybe that doesn't really, it's not something that you maybe feel every day, but the background is still there. That's also a different way of approaching things. So I can imagine it's quite a balance between those three cultures.
It makes it rich because you're always learning, and that's something that I take deeply to my heart, the continuous learning moment.
What are the sources that you go to expand your knowledge, to keep informed, to keep updated?
I honestly believe curiosity is one of the top strengths of anybody, leader or not. If you stay curious, you're going to make it. So what I do personally is whenever I'm driving, I'm listening to podcasts. I love music, but I left music for other moments, like when I'm working. Okay. When I'm working and I'm on headphones, it's deep house all the way. Okay, that makes me focused. When I'm not in meetings, of course. Then when I'm in the car, it's my learning moment, or it's the moment for me to take news from home. So I listen to analysts to understand what's happening, what's the dynamic, what's the latest, to also be prepared for what could come. We never know. So podcasts in the car, and then books at home in the evenings. Sometimes not. If I'm already drained of energy, then it becomes a weekend story. But definitely podcasts and books. These two are my go-to for inspiration, for learning, for leadership, for management, for everything.
Do you have a few tips you could share with us?
My favorite one, and not an ad paid or something, it's from personal experience. I like a lot the No Bullshit Leader from Martin Moore. It's a podcast that you can find on Spotify. Very snackable, 20 minutes tips and tricks on a variety of topics. I think by now they recorded more than 200-300 episodes, so massive database of very accessible, very easy to understand, grab, and very practical situations in which the CEO, Martin Moore was the CEO of a company, he explains how he lived it throughout his career. I like it a lot. I can listen 5 or 6 in one go when I'm going to the Netherlands, for example, to our office. Then on the books part, that's my recent mantra of the last 2-3 weeks ago I discovered, is Stoicism. I embraced philosophy of Stoicism. And the book that led me to that is Daily Stoic. But I forgot the name of the author. Please forgive me. But if anybody is listening and take notes, I'm sure you'll find it on Google. Brilliant. That opened a lot of eyes and things in my head that I already intuitively felt or wanted to educate myself on. But it's a philosophy. It's a long conversation.
Okay. That's intellectual nourishment, we can say. You're also obviously someone who is very enthusiastic, very energetic. Where do you get that energy from? What gives you energy? What keeps you going?
First, it's me time, and the older I get, that's a reality, the more of it I need. I realize I'm an extrovert, really like the extreme part of an extrovert, but the more I give and take energy, the more I also grow my introvert somehow, if it makes sense. So I need this me time to recharge. That's one thing, and that I do either by reading or just Sometimes going on my own for a little walk or something that helps. Then the second point is, of course, all the discovery and the adventure that we have the pleasure of having here in Belgium. And here I can allude to, of course, my fellow friends in Ukraine, and especially boys that, they cannot leave the country. They're stuck, even if they're not fighting. I'm constantly in contact with them. Their borders are closed. So I continuously remind myself that I have that luxury of traveling by living here. So I definitely love to travel and discover a lot. Yeah. And that was something that I picked up since I was a child with my mom. She brought me along with her around the world. So
around the world. Yeah. Okay. You mentioned briefly Ukraine and the situation in your home country. We worked together in the past, so a little bit of behind the scenes of the podcast. I remembered in February 2022 when all of a sudden I received an out of office from you saying, "I'm Ukrainian. My country is under attack. I don't know when I'll be back, but I'm gone for the moment." It's something all these years later that still touches you very much. How do you balance that kind of duality between, on the one hand, having in the back of your mind what is happening in your home country, and on the other hand, being in the now, leading two teams across two countries? How is that? How does that work for you on a daily basis?
I won't lie, it's one of the hardest things I had to learn in the past 3 years. All things work related. It's one thing. The journey I'm on, the impact I want to make, the teams and the people I want to grow. But especially tackling that duality that you just addressed is hard. There's probably no magic trick here, but coming back to the Stoicism philosophy, and that's why it really resonated with me, you need to know very clearly what is in your center of influence, in center of control, and what is absolutely not, and how to let the rest go. And having the wisdom to distinguish between the two. To give you a concrete example, even taking in all the news that is happening today, and since the arrival of Trump, of course, everything went upside down, and there has been rage and anger across the whole world about it. It hit me, it shocked me, as, of course, the invasion 3 years ago as well. But you need to learn how to hold your own and focus on what is in your control. What can I do to contribute? What can I do to support? How can I help? So coming back to those first few days, indeed an out of office was out of the question. I had immediately the manager that reached out, HR reached out to say, "Alex, it's horrible. We don't know what to say. Please take the time you need. We'll figure out something later." So I went immediately into going to manifestations, connecting with all the people I knew that were leaving the country, trying to welcome them at home. I'm seeing a friend tonight that actually moved 4 days after the war has started, and they came to our doorstep, and now 3 years later they are building successful careers in Antwerp. So I put my energy where I could help and where I was adding value. And of course volunteering, sending money to the army, all this. So you focus on what you control, what you own, what you can do. And you learn how to let go of what you can't. I cannot change Trump, I cannot change Musk. These guys for now rule the politics that shocks us every day. So putting less of your emotion on that and more of your emotion and training your brain on, again, come back to self. What do you control? What can you really, really change? And what you cannot, just let it out of your system. So on the 1st of April, we flew together with my husband to the border in Hungary, and we picked them up car by car. Still makes me sensitive.
Yeah. You can pick a card.
Lovely. A hidden talent. I do speak 6 languages.
Wow.
Yes.
And what are those 6
so
languages?
The Dutch and French.
Dutch, French, Ukrainian.
I do. Well, not for the purposes of in-depth conversation, but overall, yes. Ukrainian. I do speak Russian. Everybody in Kiev does. It's not a mystery. Italian. And I think we're there. In English.
Yeah, in English, obviously.
Voilà. So,
so obvious that we forgot about it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What was a remarkable failure for you that turned out to be a valuable lesson?
Remember I told you that at the age of 20, we opened our first business with the investment. Well, 2 years after, we had to close it because of the world crisis. So I'm not saying that it was absolutely, our mistakes that we made that led to that. Not at all. But it did hit me hard because it's like you give birth to a baby. Also, I'm not a mother yet myself. I'm a stepmother. But you create something, you put all your energy, all your efforts, all your brain, all your heart into it, and then suddenly you have to dismantle the whole thing. Yeah. That was painful, but definitely learned my lessons. Yeah. Because also at the end of the existence of that company, the relationship between the three co-founders, friends, 20 plus years old, you can imagine, didn't necessarily go well. So therefore, the investor made some strategic decisions, and he needed to let go some people. And actually, I even had to let go one of the two co-founders. Oh. So that you learn...
Not a good time, I can imagine.
No, that was tough. But it shapes you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It kind of brings you the courage, the boldness, but also the responsibility. And I had to take it all on me for a few months. But still, that's also part of who I am today, because I went through that.
Yeah, I can imagine that's not something that you get over easily. And it's better to take it indeed as a lesson learned and take it with you as you go. If you had to summarize your career in one word, what would it be? Or a sentence? We will give you a little bit extra words.
I think today, career and life, both, I would say resilience, because it's always the touch and go. You fall, you get up, you fall, you get up, you push, you make something bigger than yourself, you aim higher. I would stick with resilience.
Is that something that you also give to your team as an advice?
I definitely try to, and it's not always easy because we have very different backgrounds, and obviously they don't live in the same duality. Coming back to your conversation, our conversation before, so I also need to level myself with the team, because I know I can hold on and. I can be much more resistant to a lot of things because I grew that thick skin in worst possible situations that they didn't. So I need to be kind in growing that resilience in them. But little by little, I hope it spreads.
Yeah. Okay. That's, I think, a very nice lesson to install on someone younger and or whatever, and to give as a good advice for the future. Speaking of good advice, if it were possible, what would be a piece of advice that you would give the younger Alexandra?
Don't be afraid to be vulnerable, because I was putting barriers, putting walls, protecting myself a lot, especially in the times of my American company career, so the 8.5 years I spent in those two, because it comes with the culture of the company, and moving to the French one with Danone, with my first manager who was Dutch, but also actually had in the past a wife who was from Ukraine. We connected, and he immediately told me, Alex, stop being so strong, loosen up, show that vulnerability a little bit. And hearing that from your manager, who is a man in a company which I just entered, was like, wow. Okay, I didn't see that coming, but I must admit that left a mark on me, and I embraced that mindset, and now I'm much more comfortable in showing my weaknesses also to my team, sharing my personal story, because I know that can maybe inspire, maybe make them think and build that resilience on their own. So yeah, I would say don't be afraid to be vulnerable. It pays back.
Okay. Is there an anecdote from your professional or maybe personal life that comes to mind? Something unexpected, something funny you would like to share with us?
Yes, we can talk about last night.
Okay.
Yes.
Very fresh.
Very fresh. Together with my colleague, we went to Belgian Vegan Awards because Alpro was nominated. And we come from Brussels, and the event is in Ghent. And with the national strikes, guess what? It takes us more than 2 hours. So we arrive 5 minutes into the show. Also, there was still supposed to be an aperitif, but maybe they decided to start a bit earlier. So we arrive, and the moment we give the codes, they say, you're from Alpro. Well, you just got an award. We're like,
nice.
Brilliant.
Can we rewind just a little bit?
Yes. So we patiently wait for for the ceremony to continue, of course, and all the way at the end, I said to my colleague, like, okay, it's our moment, because they're asking all the winners to go on stage. I said, okay, now let's go.
Yeah.
So we take that group picture, and of course the wrap up of the whole ceremony already happened. And then we go to the organizers to say, we are from Alpro. Sorry for being late. And they're like, okay, great. We're going to now introduce, So they had to rewrite the whole script, and still after the group photo, introduce us, ask us a few questions. And that was a little bit awkward, but still happy we did it.
Yeah.
But the fun part started after. The moment we stepped down from that stage, all the people that came to talk to us, that was amazing. I did not expect that, because the power of plant-based and the products that Alpro creates to enhance that diet, that way of life, lifestyle, if you want, it's so strongly rooted in that community. I was exposed to it for the first time, and we had people coming to us saying, you should be in schools and you should be in all the offices, and we need more of Alpro everywhere, and what do you think about this, and how about sugar reduction, and all the ingredients that I'm reading on your pack very carefully, tell me about this. That was mind-blowing. So I was an evening that started a little bit awkward, ended up in a true testimony, and that's something that we'll also relay, of course, to the Alpro team together with the award, that there was such consumer love shining through these people talking to us. That was super rewarding.
Yeah, I can imagine. You can pick another card, please.
Let's go with this one. Voilà. 10 minuutjes te laat of 30 minuten te vroeg. Well, the story goes, we were 10 minutes too late yesterday.
What role does creativity play in your personal life? I can imagine there's already a lot of stuff going on in your life. Is there still room for creativity? Maybe let's start with that.
Kelly, creativity is one of the top leadership traits in a CEO role search.
Okay.
CEO role, creativity.
Wow.
I was surprised when I learned that. So to come back to your question, I think it's absolutely mandatory that we nourish creativity in everything we do, being it media, advertising, and being it, I don't know, procurement or supply chain.
Maybe not too creative.
You might be surprised. Sometimes you need to find ways in supply chain when one production line gets stuck and you quickly need to shift it to another. You need creative people. So I would be empty as a person if I didn't have creativity and find and seek creativity, because it goes sometimes by ways of working. If you need to reinvent something, if there is change management involved, at some point in time, you find yourself rebuilding something, a process, a flow, governance. And yes, of course, you need all the business intelligence and the data to nourish it. But sometimes you just need to be able to look at a blank sheet and make something out of it. Yeah. So that's one part of creativity. Of course, all the brand building, the advertising, and the content creation, that is a no-brainer. Crisis situations, I also find sometimes creativity is needed just to find your way out of something that could have seemed impossible, but still. So I'm strongly behind creativity in all shapes and forms. Yeah. Of course, when it's maybe regulated, but not without it.
Can you give us an example of a campaign that really stood out for you in terms of creativity?
Yes, and that campaign actually was back in the days when I was at Coca-Cola still. Mm-hmm. It was one of the Fanta Halloween campaigns, and I had the pleasure and the privilege of driving it, and actually it got us all the way up to an AMA award.
Oh, nice.
And it was spread-headed from the point of creativity, and we did things in a completely different way. We recorded a series of YouTube videos. It was now about 6 years ago with some influencers, and it was a haunted story about a professor that allegedly stole children and did some kind of nasty experiments on them. So in the spirit of Halloween, that was my for the time being the most creative work that I can at least personally vouch for.
Okay. Creative campaigns are not always the most easy ones to manage because they go a little bit outside of the beaten track in terms of KPIs, maybe in terms of budgeting. Not always the same process. How do you deal with that?
First, I think it's important to have a leadership alignment in the company and knowing where we're going. So what's the vision? What's the strategy? If the vision is, for example, to make meaningful and different brands, that's what we want to stand for at Danone, then the way how to get to those meaningful and different brands is sometimes by taking those risks. Because if you want to stand out, if you want to stand for something, but also opposite of what the others stand for, you need a creative way to get there. So first, I would say a company vision and an alignment on a leadership level of how we're going to get there. Then on the ground or within your teams, local, regional ones, you need to make sure that you properly train people, that they know what great looks like, what is creative excellence, how to write better briefs. All these type of things are important in Danone, and I'm sure in all the other big FMCGs, because you continuously need to educate your own population and hold them to a higher standard. So when you have those two things in the equation, then the third element is, of course, everything measurement, but, and this is a big but, sometimes you cannot measure a great story. Sometimes you just need to also go by the gut and by the human truth, you know. Very good marketing stands out. But today, there is more than 66% of consumers that say that I don't feel nothing from advertising. Advertising has become dull. So how not to fall in that space of dullness? It goes with creativity, it goes with risks, and it doesn't necessarily go with all the measurement and the KPIs and the MMMs. Sometimes it's taking those risky moves that make you stand out, be bold, and be meaningful.
Yeah. And how would you encourage agencies, be it media, be it creative agencies, to take to open the conversation with their clients on that?
I already touched upon it a little bit. I think everything that has to do with human truth and consumer insights. And here, for example, we also strive to bring closer our creative agency partner, media agency partner, and our strategy and insights team so that we can nourish all the parties in this puzzle with intelligence that we own so that they can come to us and propose those better campaign ideas. Because we know what drives people to have an Activia for breakfast or an Oikos for dessert. We have that data. So it's a matter of making sure that as ecosystem, you function in a way that you nourish each other with that intelligence. So I would say then to a creative agency, challenge your client to feed you with that information. And then with that, you can do better work. You can do more creative work. And then we speak the same language, because then you're going to come to me and say, by the way, we have this human truth that we didn't fully explore, or a consumer insight that left untapped in the last creative round of iteration of something. Let's dig a little bit deeper into that. And then the conversation starts.
Yeah. Maybe also referring back to your previous advice, don't be afraid.
No.
Just maybe start that conversation and see where it takes you. An important part. What projects or goals are still important for you in the future? Where do you... It's always a bit of a classical question, but where do you see yourself in 5 years? What was something that you would like to see realized? Let's dream big.
Let's dream big. I think bringing Danone on the stage of Cannes Festival is one of the things I will dream big of, for sure, with our impactful and creative idea that stands out. So 100%, that's one. Then in terms of teams, for example, I take it very personal to make sure that I have a team that is not only high performing, but also that sticks together, that there is this vibe and there is a good connection. So I would also make sure that along the way, or those years ahead of me, I can have teams with me or around me that are excited, that are energized, that are just also wanting to make better marketing and better media. So those would be my 2 dimensions.
Yeah. And on a more personal level, is there something you would like to still realize? Could be running a marathon, or maybe painting a beautiful picture. Is there something there that you still see yourself doing in the coming years?
There is one job or role that I've always admired, never thought myself of being ready, but I think I'll probably still giving it a try in the future. Being a mother.
Really? Oh.
Yes. I think I'll try.
Yeah. There's only a before and after. Nothing is the same.
Exactly. So I've been making the most of the time before, and I realize it's the biggest job in the world. Yeah. So I'm not taking it lightly. Therefore, leaving it to the, to the mature side of life. Yeah. So voila, maybe in 5 years from now, that's another personal achievement.
Yeah. But you have in Dutch we say plus kids. We don't talk about stepchildren, but about plus children.
Indeed, I do.
So you have already a little bit of experience there in that area as well. Of what to expect.
Absolutely. I have 2 lovely stepchildren. Their names is Emma and Arthur, and they are almost 13 and 19 years old. Okay. So, yes. So it's not something that you can just promise and forget, being it going to a concert or being it, promising driving lessons, what have you. Once you made a commitment, that's it, it's yours. Yeah. That's something that in the professional world you can sometimes wiggle your way out of something. I learned better not to do it with the children.
No, indeed. So we talked about the projects for the future. If we look a little bit more closely at the here and now, is there a project currently close to your heart, or an idea or a goal that you would like to realize on the shorter term?
Yes, it's very much linked to the day-to-days and sits somewhere between strategy and execution within Danone, because we keep growing the teams, and it's not a surprise because it was public. We are hiring 2 new experts in my team, which is all about retail media and owned media, which is the website. So these 2 colleagues are starting next month in my team and making sure that they take this space in the teams, in the broader marketing community, with the global team, with the sales team, with the shopper team. So I want to make sure that together with my other team members, we properly welcome them and that we grow these capabilities from within. So that's my nearest future goal, let's say. It's very people, teams, less performance, if you see what I mean. It's really about making sure they feel home in Danone, in my team, setting them up for success with the proper onboarding, with the proper governance, scope of work. These human elements are for me a priority in the coming 6 months, let's say.
Diversity is also obviously a big part of how a team works and how a team thrives. How do you make sure that people feel at home and feel safe and seen within your team?
Kelly, I think a lot starts with confidence. And I try to nourish that in my team members, sometimes by giving them the stage, even if they don't always thank me for it later. But it's a learning curve. Sometimes by empowerment, sometimes by even challenging to find that common ground, but even more so to build their inner confidence. Because I believe that today, a good leader is somebody that inspires, encourages others, and is not just there to be on the podium. I want my team to shine, and they will shine when they're confident, when they are fully aware of their capabilities, and when they feel like champions themselves. That's for me the biggest thing to unlock.
Yeah. Is there a figure that inspires you? Someone that leads by example for you?
Yes, I like a lot the lifestyle, philosophy, and overall choices the person has made in his life. It's Sir Richard Branson. I find him very inspirational and badass. And I like the 2 dimensions of it. I was given a reading of the dates of birth once by a friend of mine. And she told me, looking by the card, she said, you're a rebel and a ruler. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make the 2 work. So I think that's also why I aspire to Sir Richard Branson, because I think he has the 2 as well. He's definitely a rebel and also
obviously a good leader.
Yes,
indeed. Maybe Richard Branson is then also the answer to my next question, but if you would like to invite someone to a fictional dinner, who would be on your guest list?
There I have another name for you. That would be Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
Because what he had to live through and coming out of it even stronger, that he went into that cell for 26 years and becoming a president of a nation, honestly, I don't know anybody more powerful than that. So I would love to speak to him.
Anyone else you would like to invite?
Good question.
We can come back to it.
No, for now,
later.
that's really the name that stands out.
It's going to be an intimate dinner then.
Yes,
that's
very
fine
intimate.
As well.
Not sharing.
Yeah. You can pick another card, please.
Let's try. Creative or analytical?
Yeah.
I will go with creative. Yeah, already talked about it. I think it's a key to many doors.
Yeah. Are you creative yourself?
Like with hands,
something.
I must admit, no. No.
Just more of an onlooker on the creativity of admirer of another person's creativity.
Yeah,
just fine as well, obviously. To come back a little bit more on the business topics that we already touched upon today, which recent trends or changes inspire or maybe concern you?
I have been visiting lately the UBA Trends Day, and I was actually coming out of it very relieved because I saw a lot of world-known speakers addressing the same dilemma that I have been actually facing in my head or in the team at Danone, is this duality that we start to observe because between all things super digital, AI, automation, personalization, and everything going the track side of things, let's say. And on the other side, still the need of connectivity, humanism, empathy, storytelling. So those two start to, almost be going away from each other. And I think it's a mission of all great marketeers is to how do we bring the two together? How do you make technology work for you, but at the same time still keep that human truth, that storytelling, that emotional angle of marketing that we cannot forget. So that's one big dilemma. The second one is short-term versus long-term, I think, and actually connected to the first one, because with everything becoming measurable, everything becoming so KPI, ROI, sometimes, and you spoke about it, how do we put a price tag on creativity? How do we measure that ROI? So finding that balance between we only go with what proves to give me the dollar back tomorrow, and talking about brand equity, reminding ourselves, our leadership team, our teams, that it's okay to take risk with bold ideas and the creative storytelling. That angle is also quite, or how do we strike that balance? It's also quite close to my heart right now.
Yeah. One of the main questions, I think, I was also at the UBA Trends Day. I think the word we heard the most is AI, or final letters we heard the most. There's also a lot of anxiety around it. Is it going to take my job? How is it going to shape the future of our industry? What are your thoughts on that subject?
I have a big fan and believer of AI in the face of my husband today. He's talking about Perplexity and ChatGPT in and out. And I absolutely love the way he embraced this technology, because he says now it's my best friend. I write emails with it. I talk to my shareholders by the help of AI. I write presentations, pitches, customer meetings, all of it. I'm honestly impressed. I'm just not there. I would love to, but something is just not yet sticking personally for me. And actually at the WFA week, so the one that was just before UBA Trends, they revealed a statistic that 20% less women use AI than men. And of course, men then advance also faster in some tasks and jobs. Do you know why? Because of imposter syndrome. Because women are afraid that they are actually cheating and they should not be doing that. And it's all about, no, I couldn't, I shouldn't, that emotional switch. So absolutely, AI is important. Do I embrace it myself? Not yet. We're actually talking with the leadership team yesterday how to embark our teams on AI and how to give those tools and weapons to them. But will it replace the human creativity and brain? I definitely hope not, because I think that's where that's not the world I would love to live in. If it's all about machines and robots, and there's no empathy and emotions, and that connection is somehow cut out. No.
Yeah, there was also an interesting topic on AI versus the impact of AI on productivity, because we can get things done a lot faster with AI. Reading a report that sometimes would have taken you an hour, now you just put it in ChatGPT and say, give me the 5 highlights. So the business is evolving faster. Are you maybe worried that it evolves beyond our capability, or where do we set the limits for saying, okay, what is how far are we willing to go in terms of efficiency versus really the human touch? Because of course AI is going to get things done a lot faster than we can, but where do we draw the line, do you think?
I think there are certain aspects of the job, for example, like mine or like yours. Then if it's about, for example, generating insights about consumers, this is for me then becoming a little bit of a blurry ground, because it goes deep into the connectivity with the person. I'm sure that if there's a focus group and if it's just, sentences shown on a screen, for example, and then the conversation happens in the room, and then transcription is made also by a machine, I'm sure people will not go in depth in terms of their conversation and revealing some deep drivers that they have of a certain behavior or certain purchasing consumption pattern. I'm sure there will be a certain filter that people will start putting if there is a machine in front of them or not another human being in front of them. So how can we protect ourselves from enabling those situations where a human-to-human conversation is still the best way forward, and not automizing it for the sake of efficiency, but losing the depths of something that comes at the end of it. That's for me something we still need to think through carefully.
We are reaching the end of our time together, unfortunately, because I still could ask you a million more questions. But is there one that has never been asked you, and would you like to share that question with us?
Yes, I think along the lines of female and male leadership, I think the gender conversation and the glass ceiling is getting better, especially in Western Europe. But if I have to sum up, sometimes the things that I'm debating about is what would be the key difference between an amazing man leader and an amazing female leader.
I think you are a good example of someone shattering glass ceiling. But has there been instances in your career where you felt maybe a little bit taken aback or being on maybe sidetracked, or have you never experienced?
I must admit there has been a moment, and it was not. It didn't have an impact on my career. It did have an impact on my self-esteem, because I felt at some point in time judged more for the physical appearance than for the intellect. And I sensed it, and I immediately went out of the situation, the relationship with that person, professionally speaking. So, and I wanted to stay away from that, but only one. And
what would your advice be to women in the industry today in 2025, thinking, okay, we are at total equality? Do you think we are at a total equality level, or do you still see some work that needs to be done?
I don't think we're at total equality. I think it's a good objective and a target to give ourselves to. For example, at Danone, we have a leadership program for women, designed by women, to make sure that we break that ceiling, if you want, collectively. And even men are part of that leadership program to help nourish female talent. But do we have equality today? No, not yet. Because I was part of those forums, and I was leading a focus group with those female leaders who can become the next directors tomorrow. And they still fear the workload that comes with it, because a lot of them are mothers, and then combining motherhood with excelling at a career in a big corporation is super demanding. So not willing to do the two jobs in one, that's where a lot of women say, break. I don't want this. I'm good at my level, and I have also kids to take care of. and I'm not gonna shoot for the stars. While from a man, being only career-centered is more expected, is more accepted. But from a woman, I don't know, you climb up the ladder, then good luck. You need to do both together.
Yeah. Those are indeed limits. Sometimes women place upon themselves. Sometimes also expectations from society saying, you can't do both. You need to be there at 3:30 for your kids every day. So how can you be in an important meeting at 4 o'clock? That's not possible. Do you see any way of it being possible? What would your advice be there?
It's only leading by example. And I must admit, Danone is a fantastic company for that, because we have, for example, my two leadership examples within the company. First was our previous general manager was a lady, and the one today is a lady. So kudos for that.
Yeah.
And also our global media VP is also a lady. So I think the more we have women in key positions that also bring other women to the top, that's just the way to go. It's, if you want, a natural domino principle.
Yeah. Do you take steps within your own team to assure that women have that flexibility, or maybe feel a little bit less the pressure of saying, I need to choose between family or career?
Our marketing leadership team is 6 women.
Okay. So that's
mic drop.
That's check in the box then.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Alexandra. It's been wonderful talking to you. I do have one final question for you. Are you connect, dare, or grow?
Totally dare.
Yeah, I thought you would say that. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I really liked it as well. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
So that's it for today's episode of Conversations. I hope you found it interesting, perhaps even inspiring or thought-provoking. If so, we'd really appreciate it if you left a quick comment or maybe even gave us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast app. Thank you so much for listening or watching, and see you again very soon for another episode of Conversations.